All right, we're going to move on to messaging now. So this is where we start mapping out the individual or individuals that we're going to be performing this work for. So for the time being, is it correct that we should assume that this is you, that you're going to be the one that's going to be doing this kind of outreach and building these relationships?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's me, but we do have a development team that includes Chris Wolf and Jen Reha. And what we like to think is between us three that we create that relationship depending on the organization and the expertise.
Okay.
It depends. Some of them are more administrative. They're suffering in that area, which I would roll into. I know enough about all of our services to talk about them, but Jen gets really into the details on behavior health. Chris gets really into the details on our IDD population. Okay. So between the three of us, I think we're a team. And then we see Patrick as the thought leader, the person who's going to not be an influencer, but you bring him in at some point, but not really the key relationship person. I think that what we've found is if we've done it that way before, and we've decided that that's probably not the way we would want to go for Patrick. We want him to come in as in a different light to these teams. But we've also seen some companies where a CEO wants to talk to the CEO. They don't really want to talk to VPs.
Right.
They think they don't have enough. Right. So it depends, I would say. But between the four of us, that's who we would focus as our team.
Okay.
But it's my role to start the conversation and then determine where does it fit best.
Okay. All right. That's good then. That's good to know. And like I said, when we get into the list building part of this, which is the third phase of our discovery, then we'll also start doing some segmentation of that list and understanding, how we recommend you attack that list. So depending on how many individuals on that list end up to be brand new relationships versus existing relationships, we'll kind of get into all that when we get to the list building phase. So I won't jump the gun too far on that. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to design a messaging strategy around you and you building these relationships. And then if and when it makes time or makes sense to bring in other people on your team into those conversations in that relationship, then that'll be we'll let you decide that, and we'll support that and we'll help you do that. But we'll assume at this moment that you're the ringleader on all of this messaging. Does that sound good? Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. When organizations need that top level visionary, we bring Patrick in.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good at that. But he's just overwhelmed if we try to get him involved with the level of detail and the time commitment that you need for these relationships on the Boundless Partnership. He's doing the same thing on the other side. You guys are helping him on the advancement side.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. We know he's busy. We know he's busy. All right. No, that's fine. This is great. This will be perfect. All right. So let's start with your. What we like to do is we like to get examples of the way that you naturally and normally communicate to these types of people. So what we ask you to do, typically it's going to be emails. It's going to be, a smattering, maybe, half a dozen different types of emails that you can forward to me. Just forward them to me. And, of you, again, at whatever level, right? If it's somebody that you know well, then send us an example of that kind of email. If you can send us the string, the back and forth conversation, that's even more helpful, because that starts to give us a sense of all of those little details, like how you would start an email, how you would open it up, how how formal or, familiar you tend to be, or casual. So, that's your second assignment, is to send us about 5 or 6, different types of emails where it's you communicating with the types of people that we're going to end up putting on your list. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
I do.
Okay, perfect. All right. So now let's just talk about what your natural written style is. Do you tend to be more toward a formal side? Do you tend to be more informal? Just describe to me kind of how you write.
I would say more informal, friendly, try to connect in some way, with either something that's going on in that everybody knows about, and to start more conversational.
Okay.
I would say.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, that's good. And then once you get in person with them, or once you're speaking with them, whether that's over the phone or on Zoom or in person, talk to me about that. I'm experiencing it right here, but in general, how do you, like you said, if you're talking with someone who is the CEO, that might be perceived as, above your status level, how do you communicate with them versus someone that might be more of a peer?
Something that connects them to me, and talk about that. And usually I want to spend at least 20-30% of my time just connecting, conversating with them. For example, there's someone up in Cleveland that we've had several meetings with, and I'm reaching back out to him, and I'm going to ask for his advice on something, that I probably don't need that advice, but that's going to be my approach with him. So I kind of look for what is that approach with each person.
Yeah.
We found someone early on last year that Patrick didn't connect with them at all. So he said, just cross them off the list. And what I was telling them is, well, she likes to talk to me, she likes, so maybe it's a woman thing. Mm-hmm. So I make sure that Jen is involved, and that's worked very well. We're moving along, and she sees it as a girls thing. Let's get this figured out, the girls,
Yeah.
So it depends, you have to kind of be in tune to who you're talking to and have enough background. Like this gentleman, and he's a CEO of a company up in Cleveland area, and I know he's been going through a lot of difficulties with the campus development. Well, I oversee our campus development, so it's finding out about them, what they're doing. That's what I'm hoping that you'll help us figure out, what are those connectors.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. That's perfect. I'm very happy to hear that, because that makes it, honestly, that makes it much more effective. Our work ends up being more effective, because that's our secret sauce, is to find those things to build rapport on. But sometimes we're challenged. Sometimes our clients aren't natural rapport builders. And so it can be challenging if we're building rapport in email, but then maybe when they get in person, it's not as, not the same level of rapport building. So that's actually really good for us to hear, because that means that this program will be very effective in this situation, because you already get that. You already understand that. All right. How do you usually open up an email? Do you say, Dear Joe? Do you just say Joe? Do you say, Hi, Joe? How do you open an email?
Probably depends how I know them.
Okay.
It could be just, I usually say hi.
Okay.
Or I say, how are you doing today? Or I don't know. I use all different kinds of approaches. I guess I don't have a standard one.
That's fine. We'll get a sense of that too when you send us those examples. That'll give us a bit of a clue too. And same with closing. Do you have kind of a favorite, take care, or, all the best, or do you have a kind of a go-to closing that you use?
They're different, and usually my ending is more direct about something that I've made a request about, is looking forward to hearing more about this. I'll reach back out to you here in the next few days to see what time works best for you. It's usually that kind of thing. Maybe that's something I probably need to think about, as a closing, but no, I don't really have one.
That's okay. We'll help you with that too. And then once you get into the back and forth conversation, like if you're going back and forth in an email, are your back and forth emails, your replies and that kind of thing, do they also include a salutation and a closing, or are they just, get right to the point, just going to answer it?